Welcome to the Positive-Based Intervention and Supports Introduction Module. I'm Scott Eldridge. Myself and Buddy Tucker will be presenting the PBIS Train the Trainer series over the next couple days. This introduction is to just get you familiarized with PBIS. At the end of the next 3 days, you'll be given a flash drive with all the materials you need to begin training your staff and coworkers in PBIS. At the end of each day, there will be a certificate of attendance, and you must attend all 3 days in order to receive your PBIS trainer certificate. We designed this training to train district and school teams in positive behavioral interventions and supports. PBIS is not a packaged curriculum that we would provide in a one-and-done training. It is an ongoing process that will require us to provide additional training and coaching as districts and schools start to plan, train, and implement PBIS district-wide and school-wide. This training covers the key components of PBIS Tier 1 implementation. The training is designed to cover preschool through grade 12. We try to provide examples from the various grade bands, but we understand that there are big differences between the implementation of PBIS at the preschool program level and at the high school level. This is where additional training, research, coaching, and attendance at the annual PBIS showcase can be helpful. Most everything has come from Tim Lewis and is updated annually. These training materials were created by the Ohio PBIS Network. The Ohio PBIS Network is composed of representatives from the 16 Ohio State support teams, Miami University, Ocali, and the Ohio Department of Education. This training was created to build consistency of PBIS implementation across the state. This training covers 7 sections, Introduction of PBIS, and the 6 key concept modules. The training is provided over a 3-day period to allow teams the necessary time for action planning with the support of a PBIS trainer coach. We also do this to allow teams the time they need together. We realize how hard it can be for teams to have time together to complete the required planning necessary for effective PBIS implementation. We highly recommend teams to take advantage of this time and use it to work on action planning. At the end of the introductory module, you will understand the rationale for implementing PBIS at a district and building level, understand what PBIS is and what PBIS is not, and you should be able to identify the 9 essential requirements for PBIS in Ohio. During this virtual training, we ask that you use the chat box to seek clarification from consultants and colleagues. And also, please use mute when not interacting with others. So let's get started. PBIS stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. Pause the video for a moment. Think about a favorite teacher when you were in school. Why did you feel connected to that teacher? What did that teacher do that made him or her special to you? Most of us can't recall the teacher's ability to teach the subject area. What we do recall is how that teacher made us feel, or what that teacher did for us. Relationships do matter. We're going to watch a video with the importance of relationships. As you are viewing the video, think about if you were this child, which adults would spark fond memories for you?
Hey, Mr. Q!
Did you see that? Why would somebody do that?
Please go into the classroom, no talking, quietly.
Hey, Miss Meredith, how you doing?
We need you inside.
How do you think that makes us feel?
I forgot my number.
What's your name?
Jordan?
What's your last name?
Carter?
All right. Go ahead.
School is hard enough.
Come on in, sit down quietly at your desks, and begin writing.
This kind of stuff just makes it harder.
I said quietly, please. Who's talking? Is it you, Sophie? Don't let it be you.
Don't believe me?
Sophie.
Please just watch.
I'm not up here for me, I'm up here for you. Pay attention, okay? Now somebody answer me. Somebody needs to answer me really fast.
Every time we're ignored or yelled at, or silence, a teacher takes away what's possible.
No horseplay, no running, and especially no talking.
Moment by moment.
Miss Fidelity, your student's behavior yesterday in the lunchroom, it was terrible. Next time, silent lunch.
Did you hear that? Stay in line and catch a bubble. I'm not playing.
If this is education, we're in trouble.
Bye, Miss McGarity.
Frederick Douglass said, once you learn to read, you'll be forever free. The way it is now, 2 of the 3 of us will never be able to really read. It doesn't have to be this way.
Hey, Jordan. How you doing? Good.
Everyone we meet throughout our day can make a difference.
I've been waiting for you to arrive.
All the difference.
Good, how are you?
Great.
Hi, Jordan. Bye, Jason.
Good morning, Jordan.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good.
Go ahead and put your number in.
Talk with
I
us,
don't know my number.
not at us.
That's okay. I'll look it up for you. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay.
All right. Have a
Teach
good
us what we need to know.
Good morning.
That's how we get smarter.
Well, good morning, Sophie, Janicia, and Jordan.
And when you talk with us and teach us, give us bigger and bigger words.
Now what I'd like you to do, children, is turn around and converse with your neighbor and discuss where the mother might have gone.
Words that we can use to read and understand,
She is prey for eagles, so she hunts at night.
and that will take us places we can never reach without you.
Remember, we're entering the learning zone. Now, how can we show our respect to the children and teachers who are working?
We can walk quietly.
Yes. Okay, kids, so what I'd like you to do is continue writing your narrative, documenting your emotions if you were the baby owl and your mother abandoned you in the nest.
What can you do? Learn all that you can so that you can challenge us to be our best.
You would have stayed and assisted them in whatever they needed.
Share yourself with us and show us how to share ourselves with others. Give us courage. Give us compassion. Help us find our own voices so we can become who we are meant to be.
Why would you want to silence us?
There are infinite opportunities for all staff to foster relationships with students throughout each day and across all settings. It is our responsibility as adults to develop positive relationships with our students. According to research, there is a 31% reduction in discipline problems in schools where staff members develop positive relationships with students. Think about those statistics. It is clear that now more than ever we need to teach more than academics. We must focus on the whole child. Supporting social-emotional learning is central to achieving academic gains. As adults, we need to create and sustain learning environments which are positive, predictable, consistent, and safe for all students and staff. Research tells us that behavior interventions are most effective when we teach specific skills using effective, explicit instruction and context, are consistent when providing positive and negative contingencies, create the conditions and opportunities for all students to experience academic success. The bottom line, instruction is the key. We must teach behavior with the same effort and techniques as teaching academics. While we want to focus on behavior equally to our focus on academics, we don't want to create a divide or silo of the work. This slide shows how important it is to focus on both behavior and academics. If we focus on both simultaneously, students will achieve greater growth in both. Addressing behavior and academics together is referred to as the multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS. So what outcomes can we expect when implementing PBIS with Fidelity? A reduction in problem behaviors, increased academic performance, improved perception of safety, a reduction in bullying behaviors, improved organizational efficiency, a reduction in staff turnover, increased perception of teacher efficacy, and improved social emotional competence. Remember, this will take 3 to 5 years to get to this fidelity at Tier 1. PBIS provides supports and services across all grade bands. It is effective for all students, general education and special education, preschool, elementary, middle, and high school. It's also effective for staff. There may be changes based on the system for those in different grade bands, and it should look different in every school because it is based on the needs of the population in that school. Remember, PBIS is not a packaged curriculum. Take a second and see if you can answer these questions. Here are the correct responses. Do these surprise you at all? Let's take a look at disproportionality in grades K through 12. Students with disabilities are 2 times more likely to be suspended than their non-disabled peers. African American students, 3.8 times more likely than their Caucasian peers. And multiracial girls with disability are 4 times more likely to be suspended than Caucasian students. Here's the impact of office referrals in an Ohio school. This is from an urban elementary school here in Ohio. Do these numbers look familiar to you? There are several federal and state rules and guidance that point to the effectiveness of PBIS. We have state rules and policy that require PBIS as a means to reduce the use of restraint and seclusion and early childhood suspension and expulsions. Ohio Revised Code provides the standard of implementation of PBIS and the use of restraint and seclusion. It also requires that each school district implement positive behavior intervention and supports on a system-wide basis. Ohio's strategic plan was launched by Ohio's superintendent and the State Board of Education in the summer of 2017. Each Child, Our Future is Ohio's shared plan for ensuring that each student is challenged, prepared, and empowered for his or her future. The whole child is at the center of the plan. Looking at the needs of the whole child includes addressing positive behavior supports and social emotional learning. To respond to the increasing focus on PBIS in Ohio schools, Ohio is expanding to a district team training and coaching approach. Primary trainers will train district teams who in turn will train building PBIS teams. Each building PBIS team is responsible for planning how and when they will train all staff in PBIS. As part of their PBIS action plan, each building PBIS team plans how they will train all staff in PBIS. So let's look at what PBIS is and what PBIS is not. Unfortunately, we have come to recognize there are many misconceptions about PBIS. Frequently, people focus solely on the word positive and think PBIS is any activity that is positively focused. Some people solely equate PBIS with tangible reinforcements. We have even heard misconceptions that PBIS is against discipline or schools using PBIS can't use discipline. While PBIS is positive and it does encourage reinforcement, it is so much more than this. PBIS is a process that guides adult behavior to create safe and supportive school environments. This is the national definition of PBIS from the National Technical Assistance Center. This is the definition we follow. You may see slightly different definitions, but the philosophy is the same. PBIS is a framework that supports the collaborative structures such as DLT, BLT, and TVTs that your system is already using. We use data, information that is used to identify status, need for change, and effects of interventions. Practices, interventions and strategies that are evidence-based. Systems, supports that are needed to enable the accurate and durable implementation of the practices of PBIS. And outcomes, academic and behavioral targets that are endorsed and emphasized by students, families, and educators. Remember, PBIS is a framework that should look different in every school based on the identified needs from behavioral data collected. PBIS is not a program or packaged curriculum such as Leader in Me, PACS, or responsive classrooms. Nothing wrong with any of those programs, and we will discuss that next, that these programs have a place within the PBIS framework. PBIS is the foundation. It is how we address behavior consistently across the system. Those programs fit within our PBIS framework. Educators cannot make students learn or behave. Educators can create environments to increase the likelihood that students will learn and behave. Environments that are guided by a core curriculum and implemented with consistency and fidelity increase the likelihood students learn and behave. Teaching, monitoring, and providing feedback is what changes behavior. Behavior is related to and governed by its context. Behavior can be interpreted as being functional, often communicative, purposeful, and meaningful for the person. Behavior is influenced by factors outside the immediate context, including relationships, activity patterns, and lifestyle issues. Teaching, monitoring, and providing feedback changes behavior. Effective practices that we already have in place can become part of the PBIS framework. Program-wide PBIS promotes consistency of these practices. PBIS is a framework, and there are many programs, interventions, and initiatives that fall under social-emotional behavioral supports. As a data-based decision-making process, PBIS helps us identify the needs of our student population, prioritize the needs, and then select the most effective interventions, which could be any of these programs, initiatives listed here. PBIS helps us make those decisions efficiently and effectively. PBIS focuses on providing a continuum of tiered supports. There are supports provided to all students, targeted supports for children at risk, and individualized supports for children with persistent challenging behaviors. The correlation between behavioral and academic success is so strong that it has become very obvious that systems of support must occur in both realms. Research indicates that students demonstrating difficult behaviors also have academic issues. This is a conceptualization from the research of a healthy school. It shows the idea that 80 to 90% of students are effectively supported when an effective research-validated plan is implemented and sustained throughout all school settings. The universal system of support is for all students. All students should receive universal supports or Tier 1. For approximately 5 to 15% of students, targeted group interventions, Tier 2, include social academic instructional groups, check-in, check-out, and other behavioral supports, in addition to the universal supports provided to all students. We as educators are aware that about 1 to 5% of students in most schools will need intensive or Tier 3 academic and/or behavioral interventions. Every person has strengths and areas that need additional support. This is why it is important to label tiers of support, not students. It is not Tier 2 or Tier 3 kids. It is Tier 2 or Tier 3 supports. Take a minute and think about, how do you support all children or those Tier 1 kids? How do you support students who need a little bit more support, the Tier 2, Tier 3 students? Here are the 9 essential PBIS requirements. You must have administrative commitment and consistent involvement, established team-based structures, a consensus on 3 to 5 behavioral expectations, systematic teaching of those behavioral expectations, system of reinforcing desired behavior, a system for correction of behavioral errors, data-based decision-making, multi-tiered systems of behavioral supports, and maintain a culturally responsive practice. PBIS is data-driven and designed to be responsive to the school environment. PBIS cannot be considered fully implemented until it is culturally responsive. With its focus on systems, teaming, and database decision-making, PBIS creates an ideal structure to embed the core components of cultural responsiveness. It is important for PBIS teams and school staff to recognize culture and include culturally responsive practices in their PBIS framework. PBIS is about systems change, and it is an ongoing commitment. It is not something that we do just once. It is a framework that is continually being redefined based on our data. And it takes 3 to 5 years to reach full implementation and to start seeing long-term results. PBIS is ongoing, and districts should have a plan for continuing professional development. For PBIS to be implemented with Fidelity, it needs ongoing training, coaching, and collaborating with others, such as other districts, families, and community partners. These are some of the PBIS trainings that are available, and more may be necessary based on the needs of the district, building, or program. These are the 5 big ideas we would like for you to take away. Never stop doing what already works. Always look for the smallest change that will produce the largest effect. Don't add something new without taking something away. We get the behavior we pay the most attention to, and positive relationships are the foundation of a successful PBIS framework. Take some time to think about, how do your existing initiatives align with Ohio's 9 essential PBIS requirements? As mentioned at the beginning of this module, implementation of PBIS can look very different based on the setting or the population. It is not a packaged curriculum. It looks different in every district and every building. How will implementation of PBIS look different based on your population and setting? How could PBIS be trained and applied to match the audience and population served? Take time to think about the considerations that may come up in different settings, such as preschool or high school. What do you need to think about to differentiate the training and coaching based on the audience? Throughout the training, teams will want to explore cultural and developmental considerations for each module discussed. How will your team align with existing structure and initiatives as you build your PBIS framework? Thank you for watching this video. Please take some time and answer the questions on the handout that was provided, and we look forward to seeing you at the virtual training.